About 1.5 years ago, I received very unusual request for the knife. 8-inch santoku blade shape Caribbean chef knife. Not thinking too much, I said, yeah, okay, I can make it. Then I started thinking. It took me half a year just trying to find the combination of the material which truly remind the Caribbean Sea and Caribbean area. But I succeed. I designed a knife which is in every single step unusual. And in this episode, I'm going to make it. So, let's begin from the billet. And thing is that I've got 50 and 20 and NC4. It is a carbon steel, this is the high nickel steel, and we are going to make a San Mai billet, but this is not going to be just 3 layers of steel. This is going to be a 4. And it is very important because after that, after the blade is forged, we are going to make an S-grind. So, this is not the first time I'm using forging press, but this is the first time I do forge welding using it. In typical San Mai, you forged 3 plates that lay one on another. But in this case, because there is 2 plates in the middle, I need to forge weld those plates together too. And this is the tricky one. If the plates would be thicker and smaller, it would be fairly easy because I would forge the bar to the right size after the welding. In this case, because I didn't want to change the dimension of the bar too much, I pushed the billet in this direction much lighter. And this is something that at the end was a big mistake. Okay, so we've got our billet. It is right now 4.5, 5 millimeters thick, so 1 millimeter thinner than it was, and 1 millimeter thicker that it will be at the end. And we can make a profile. Because this is a San Mai, after I forge the billet, I just start working like I do with stock removal knives. I cut the profile, remove the slack, and grind the primary bevel. The primary bevel is super roughly shaped, it doesn't even go to the spine, and it is just because I want to protect the blade from a huge warp, which sometimes happen during the quench. These are 2 scrap pieces I'm going to use to make a test, and I've cut it. It is just after the forging. I've cut it, I'm going to break it, and we are going to check the grain structure, because this one should be coarse, relatively coarse. I'm very curious, so I'm going to check it. Because during the forge welding, the grain structure inside the steel grows to super big crystals, and during the forging, so after you forge weld the billet, it crushed and it goes smaller, but normalizing cycle makes it even finer. So right now I assume that it is bad, like very bad. Okay. So it is absolutely horrible. In general, the same thing is here. And we need to go from this to the grain structure similar to the flower. As you can see, even with a thick bevel, I get slightly warp on the tip of the blade, but it is not a big deal because we are going to fix that during the tempering cycle. Okay guys, so the bevels are done, and it is a good moment to explain why I made such a strange San Mai and what is the next step. Because right now, blade is just straight, there's flat bevels on the blade, and the thing is that this is not a final shape of the knife. So, if you have straight bevels, the core is from the spine to the edge, and part of it is covered by the scales. However, in case of S-grind, and this is a good moment to explain what is S-grind and to what for is used. This is not an option. So, S-grind is in general grind in the middle section of the blade, which allows to fall off the vegetables and products you cut. In straight knife, in straight bevel, products you cut just stick to the surface of the knife and it is annoying. So to avoid that, or to fix this issue, you create an S-grind. This is difficult because if you messed up, you must start all over again. Not just the grind, but the whole knife. And here's the explanation why I did such a straight San Mai. If you make something like this in San Mai knife, there is a possibility to create a gap where the core will be exposed, and after the etching, the knife would have ugly black hole in the middle section. And this is something that I wanted to avoid because this is terrible. It looks like crap. So, that is why I create something which called a Hon San Mai, where the core is only in halfway of the height of the blade. So, right now, plan is to grind the S-grind. I've prepared the platen. I'm super scared, but I'm not only scared because of the difficulty of the S-grind. I'm also scared because this is the moment when I expose the weld between the core and 15 and 20, which is inside. And if I have some delamination, if something went wrong during the forging, this is the moment when I notice that. And actually this is the final test of successfully forged blade. This is huge failure. Can you see this? This beautiful scratch is the lamination. Actually, not the lamination. It is just not forged two pieces of steel. So we must start again. But thing is that if I make it the same way, probably I will repeat the same mistake. So I'm going to forge 3 sheets of steel from 15 and 20, and then I'm going to grind one edge, and then I will stack weld high carbon steel core to one of the side. Instead of one forge welding, I'm going to make 2. But since this is going to be a different orientation of the forge welding and the force put it to the surface of the weld than at the first attempt, this is going to work for sure. The blade is hand sanded to 800 grit, and I'm going to make a performance test now, before the etching and before the final grinding, because I just don't want to make some decolorization of the blade, because it is juicy reactive, and during the time it will change the color. So we are in the kitchen, and this is just normal factory made knife, which is sharp and I'm using every day. So this test won't be the cut test, but the performance of the S-grind test, just to be clear. And we've got the onion, we've got S-grind bevel, S-grind knife, and I'm going to cut the onion in half, check one and another blade. And small trick with the onion. It won't make you cry. Let's stick. Now the S-grind. It stick less, significantly less. So it is not the best solution, but definitely it helps. So the S-grind works, and the knife is down because I still need to make a handle. And for the handle, I'm going to use something that probably nobody uses, because this is a coconut, exactly coconut brick, and I'm going to stabilize it. Since this is one-time handle material only, I will never do this again and you will see in a few minutes why. I cut part of the brick just to make two handles, and two is just for safety precautions. If something goes wrong, I have enough material to make another handle. I wanted to cut it with the table saw, but after 3 seconds I've changed my mind and go with the angle grinder. And you probably might think, why the hell you complicate this task so much? The coconut is hard. This is a saw blade after one single cut. It is completely dull. So, we've got a roughly shaped handle from the coconut. How cool is that? Second component for the handle gonna be even cooler, because this is swordfish bone. Marlins Bill. Marlin is the, big fish with the sword on his nose. Fish don't have nose. In front of the head. And it lives only in Caribbean Sea. So, this is definitely Caribbean thing, but not knife making thing, is the foam inside the bone. I'm not sure if it's visible. And the thing is that I must put those to the knife handle. I have no idea how to make it. And also, I have no idea how this bone gonna works. For now, I think the plan is to cut it in half and try to remove the foam inside. And of course, I have no idea how this is gonna work, because I didn't use bone in any of my projects. So, question number 1, how to cut it. Well, let's try this one. Okay, it's cut. If I had to choose one project which is like the most far away from my comfort zone, this is it. So it looks like this. Why have I feeling that every step I do bring me closer to that huge failure? Okay, so I was thinking for a while how to start fitting the bone to the handle, and I think that the best way to start is to make a top one, because it is round like the handle in my kitchen knives usually are, and it is straight, the handle isn't, but I'm going to flatten it. And I'm going to cut 3mm deep groove to put the bone on the handle. Then I'm going to make nice round groove, and this is gonna be the top one. The second step gonna be the sides, and because the bones are round, I'm going to use it, and I think I will use 4 pieces to each side. It will create a collar around the handle from the bones, and I believe that after that it will be much easier to create the final shape of the handle, which will be smooth and nice, and it will match to the bone, which I cannot change much. This is unconventional, but I believe that nothing is really typical in this knife. So unusual knife require unusual methods. From my perspective, making bone scales is terrible. The Marlins bone thickness is about 1 millimeter, so you have very limited shapeability, and also the foam is different color and the structure compared to the bone, so you can't just glue them together to create the handle. Overall, I spent huge amount of time just trying to figure how to cut the bones properly. And also, both of these materials make huge dust and stinks. I mean, stabilized wood have intensive resin smell when you cut it, grind it, do anything to remove it. And the fish bone stinks like 100 years old fishing boat, and actually the respirator don't help at all. You still feel it. So this is not my favorite material at all. Bones, never again. The handle starts to looking like a handle, not rectangular cube. That is good. But we still didn't touch the pommel. And to make the pommel less flat, I'm going to inlay this beautiful LARIMAR stone. And yes, I'm going to put this stone on the kitchen knife's handle. Sounds crazy, I know that, but this is the stone which is typical for the Caribbean Sea. I'm gluing the bones to the coconut handle and I'm covering the tank hole, and it's only because the Marlins Bill is relatively sensitive to longitudinal fracture, and I just wanted to make this hole at the last end. The last step is mother of pearl inlay, and the methodology is exactly the same as stone and bone inlay, so I'll just skip it and show you the final result. So guys, 8-inch santoku blade shape Caribbean knife is done. If you like this project, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts about the knife into the comment section. This is all. Have a great day. Bye bye.